Kodak invented the digital camera, then buried it. But before the burial, Kodak was an empire built on a single promise. You press the button, we do the rest. But behind the polished marketing, Kodak's dominance was built on a razor-sharp business model. Every snapshot required film, every roll demanded chemicals, and every print needed ink. The company's profits weren't just in the cameras. They were in the consumables, the endless cycle of spending to preserve memories. For decades, Kodak controlled the entire ecosystem, and no one even questioned it. The Kodak moment wasn't just a product. It was a cultural ritual. Parents taught their children to hold the camera just so, to smile at the right time, to wait for the shutter click. It became shorthand for capturing life's most important seconds. A universal language understood by billions. Yet, beneath the surface, Kodak's empire was already cracking, and no one saw it coming. In a backroom at Kodak's headquarters, Steve Sasson stands before a room of executives. His hands trembling slightly as he demonstrates the prototype. The screen flickers with a blurry, pixelated image of his wife's smile. One executive asks, "Why would anyone want to view photos on a TV?" The question hangs in the air like a death sentence for an empire that hasn't yet realized it's being born. The camera's screen is tiny, its resolution laughable by today's standards. Yet it's a revolution in disguise. No more waiting for film to develop, no more chemical baths, no more lost negatives. Sasson's invention captures an image instantly, storing it digitally in a way that feels almost magical. The future is here, but Kodak's leadership doesn't see it as a threat, just a curiosity. Kodak's monopoly wasn't just about cameras. It was about the very act of remembering. For generations, people trusted Kodak to preserve their most precious moments. The company's slogan, Kodak Moments, wasn't just marketing. It was a cultural touchstone, a promise that life's memories would never fade. But in that backroom, a decision was made that would unravel everything. The toaster-sized prototype sits on a table, its wires tangled like the thoughts of Kodak's executives. They see a gimmick, a novelty. What they don't see is the storm brewing, one that will drown their empire in its own success. The digital camera isn't just a camera. It's a disruption waiting to happen, and Kodak is about to bury it alive. Outside Kodak's walls, the world is already shifting. Photographers, artists, and hobbyists are experimenting with new technologies. But Kodak's grip on the market is unshakable. The company's chemical plants run non-stop. Its film factories churn out reels by the million. No one suspects that the very tools of their trade are about to become obsolete. Kodak's reign feels eternal. In 1975, the digital camera is still a secret, a classified project tucked away in Kodak's research labs. The executives who dismissed it that day had no idea they were signing the death warrant for an industry they built. The Kodak moment was about to lose its magic, and no one would see it coming until it was too late. The Kodak moment wasn't just a snapshot. It was a promise that memories would last forever, that the world could be captured and preserved in a way that felt sacred. But promises, like empires, can only last so long. The digital revolution was already on its way, and Kodak's leadership chose to ignore the warning signs, burying the future beneath layers of film and chemicals. The prototype's screen flickers with the ghost of a smile, a reminder of what could have been. Sasson's invention wasn't just a camera. It was a glimpse into the future, one that Kodak chose to forget. The Kodak moment would soon be redefined, not by the company that created it, but by the very technology it tried to suppress. The end of an era was coming, and no one was ready. The world outside Kodak's walls was already changing. Photographers were experimenting with new techniques. Artists were pushing boundaries, and consumers were growing restless. The Kodak moment had defined a generation, but the next one would demand something different, something instant, something digital. Kodak's leadership was blind to the storm approaching, too busy celebrating their empire to see the cracks forming. The Kodak moment was more than a product. It was a cultural phenomenon, a ritual that had shaped how people documented their lives for over a century. But rituals, Like all things, eventually fade, the digital camera, once dismissed as a curiosity, would soon become the norm, reshaping how memories were captured, shared, and forgotten. Kodak's empire was built on permanence. But permanence has a shelf life. The year is 1975. Rochester, New York, hums with the quiet confidence of an empire. Kodak towers over the skyline, its name synonymous with memory itself. Every wedding, every vacation, every fleeting moment of joy or sorrow is captured on Kodak film. The world does not question it. It simply is. Inside Kodak's research labs, a young engineer named Steve Sasson works in silence. His creation, a bulky, toaster-sized device, looks like a relic from another era. But inside, it holds the future. For the first time, an image is captured without film, without chemicals, without waiting. It's a miracle, and no one knows it yet. Sasson's invention is so radical that even Kodak's executives can't grasp its potential. They gather in a dimly lit conference room, their faces illuminated by flickering fluorescent lights. The prototype is wheeled in, and for the first time, they see what the future might look like. But their minds are stuck in the past. One executive leans forward, his voice dripping with skepticism. "Why would anyone want to view photos on a TV?" he asks. As if the idea is absurd, the room erupts into laughter. But the laughter feels hollow, because beneath it all, they all know, this could be the end of Kodak as they've always known it. The truth is, Kodak's empire is built on a razor blade model. Film is cheap. But the chemicals, the processing, the prints, those are where the real money lies. Digital threatens to dismantle that entire machine. It eliminates the need for film, for processing labs, for the physical act of developing photos. It's a threat so profound that it feels like betrayal. The engineers in the room are divided. Some see the potential. This could be the next revolution. Others cling to the familiar, the profitable. The chemical engineers, raised in the world of film and processing, view digital as an intrusion. It's not just a new technology. It's a cultural upheaval. And Kodak, for all its power, is afraid of change. We upload videos like this every day. Subscribe so you don't miss out. Television. The decision is made. The digital camera will be classified, its secrets locked away. Patents will be filed broadly, ensuring Kodak's dominance in the digital space. But the product itself, it will be shelved, buried under layers of bureaucracy and corporate hesitation. Kodak will wait, hoping the world will forget about this strange new idea. In the years that follow, Kodak continues to dominate the market, its name a symbol of permanence. But beneath the surface, the digital revolution is gaining momentum. Companies like Sony and Canon are investing heavily in digital technology. Kodak, meanwhile, is playing it safe, clinging to the past while the future races ahead. The irony is staggering. Kodak's digital patents will eventually be sold to a consortium of tech giants, including Apple and Google. Those very patents will power the smartphones that destroy Kodak's business. The company that once defined how the world captured memory will be forced to sell its soul to become something else entirely. The meeting room falls silent. The weight of the decision hangs heavy in the air. They've just buried the future, and no one even realizes it. The digital camera sits on the table, a silent witness to Kodak's downfall. The world will remember Kodak for its film, for its moments, but in truth, it will be remembered for what it could have been, and what it chose not to see. The decision to shelve the digital camera wasn't just a corporate miscalculation. It was a cultural one. Kodak's engineers understood the potential, but the executives saw only risk. They preferred the certainty of film over the uncertainty of a digital future. And in that moment, Kodak chose to cling to the past, even as the world moved forward. The engineers who believed in the digital camera's potential were few. They were the ones who saw the potential to change the world, to make capturing memories instant, to eliminate the wait, to bring the world closer together. But their voices were drowned out by the corporate machine that valued profits over progress, tradition over innovation. The digital camera prototype sits on the table, a relic of what could have been. It's a stark reminder of the choices that shaped Kodak's destiny. The decision to bury the future wasn't just about technology. It was about the fear of change, the comfort of the familiar, and the cost of complacency. Kodak's story is a cautionary tale of how even the mightiest empires can fall if they refuse to see the future. The year is 1975, but the world is already moving forward. Kodak stands at the precipice. Its empire built on the past, its future uncertain. The digital camera is just the beginning of a revolution that will change how the world captures, shares, and remembers. Kodak's choice to bury the future will haunt them for decades to come. In the mid-1990s, Kodak's top brass embarked on a high-stakes gamble, investing heavily in the Advantix platform, a revolutionary new film technology that promised better image quality and more versatility. However, despite initial success, Advantix failed to capture the market's attention, and the early adopters were disappointed with its limitations. Meanwhile, the digital camera market was exploding, with companies like Canon and Sony dominating the landscape with their innovative new products. Kodak's leadership was slow to adapt, stuck in their traditional mindset, and they failed to see the writing on the wall, despite the obvious shift in consumer behavior. In 1996, Kodak launched the EasyShare system, a line of digital cameras and printers that promised to revolutionize the way people shared their photos. However, despite its initial success, the EasyShare system failed to gain traction in the market, and Kodak's leadership was unable to adapt to the changing landscape. In the late 1990s and early 2000s, Kodak's financial situation began to deteriorate, and the company was forced to rely on patent licensing revenue to stay afloat. The company's refusal to cannibalize its high-margin consumables business for the low-margin digital services was a fatal mistake, and Kodak was unable to adapt to the changing market. In 2012, Kodak filed for bankruptcy, and the company's legacy as a pioneer in photography was officially brought to an end. The irony of Kodak's story is that the company's own patents built the smartphone cameras that ultimately destroyed its business. The reorganization of Kodak's assets and the sale of its patents to a consortium of companies marked the end of an era and the beginning of a new chapter in the company's history. Today, the legacy of Kodak lives on in the form of the many companies that continue to innovate and push the boundaries of photography and digital technology. The story of Kodak serves as a cautionary tale about the dangers of complacency and the importance of adapting to change in the ever-evolving world of technology. The legacy of Kodak serves as a reminder of the importance of innovation and the need to stay ahead of the curve in order to survive in the fast-paced world of technology. The story of Kodak's rise and fall serves as a reminder of the dangers of complacency and the importance of staying ahead of the curve in order to succeed in the ever-changing world of technology. A once giant factory in Rochester, New York, now stands silent, its towering chimneys, once belching smoke from chemical processing, now exhale nothing but dust. The air hums with the weight of 100,000 memories. Each frame, each snapshot, each Kodak moment, now frozen in time like the buildings themselves. The camera rolls outside the abandoned Kodak Park headquarters, where graffiti whispers of a past empire. The sun casts long shadows over rusted machinery, a silent and industry that built dreams on film. Inside the boardroom where decisions were once made, the air smells of stale coffee and old paper. A single light flickers above a massive conference table, casting long, wavering shadows. The walls are lined with framed photographs of Kodak executives from decades past, their faces frozen in expressions of confidence. But now, the room feels hollow, like a stage set for a play that never came back. The camera lingers on a half-empty mug of cold coffee, its surface reflecting the flickering light. The year is 2012. Kodak's bankruptcy filing papers lie scattered across the table like fallen leaves. The ink is still wet, the edges curling slightly, as if the very paper resists the weight of what it carries. A single red stamp reads, Chapter 11, in bold letters. A legal death sentence for a company that once dominated the world. The camera zooms in on the stamp, the ink bleeding slightly, as if the ink itself is weeping. The camera pulls back to reveal a room filled with lawyers and Kodak executives. Their faces drained of color. One man, his tie slightly loosened, stares blankly at the papers. His name tag reads George Matsuyama, the last CEO of Kodak. The weight of the moment presses down on him like a physical force. He exhales slowly, his breath visible in the cold air. As if he's just realized the enormity of what's happening, the camera captures the moment of realization, the flicker of understanding in his eyes. The auction of Kodak's digital imaging patents begins in a sterile, white-walled room. The walls are lined with monitors displaying rows of names. Apple, Google, Facebook, Microsoft. Each name represents a company that would later use Kodak's very technology to bury Kodak itself. The camera pans over the monitors, the names blinking like a countdown to a fateful moment. A single auctioneer's gavel rests on a podium, waiting to fall. The auctioneer's voice echoes through the room, calm and measured. Starting bid for Kodak's 1,100 digital imaging patents. $525 million. The camera zooms in on the auctioneer's face. His expression unreadable. The bid is so high it feels like a joke. A cruel twist of fate. The camera lingers on the gavel, poised above the podium, as if it's about to strike the final nail in Kodak's coffin. The air feels thick with irony. The irony is staggering. Kodak's patents, the very technology that would later make smartphone cameras ubiquitous, were sold to the very companies that would use them to kill Kodak's business. The camera pulls back to show a wide shot of the auction room, the executives watching in stunned silence. One man, his face buried in his hands, seems to be crying. The room feels like a funeral, but for a company that never quite died, just transformed into something unrecognizable. The patents themselves are a strange artifact of history. They sit in a secure facility, their physical form a relic of an era when paper and ink still held power. The camera pans over stacks of thick, yellowed patent documents, each one a Kodak's once unmatched innovation. The documents are heavy, almost tangible, as if they carry the weight of the company's legacy. A single red stamp on one document reads Kodak, as if to say, "This is what we were." The camera zooms in on a single patent document, its pages filled with intricate diagrams of digital sensors and imaging algorithms. The diagrams are a stark contrast to the faded ink of the rest of the document. They represent the future, something Kodak once held in its hands but ultimately let slip away. The camera lingers on the diagrams, the lines and shapes forming a language of innovation that would later define a new era of photography. The irony is almost unbearable. In the aftermath of the auction, Kodak's headquarters is stripped down to its bones. The once proud company now stands as a shadow of itself, a shell of its former glory. The camera follows a lone employee walking through the empty halls, his footsteps echoing like a funeral march. He picks up a single Kodak camera from a display case, its lens still clear, its shutter still silent. The camera lingers on the camera, a symbol of what could have been but wasn't. The employee looks at it, then back at the empty halls, as if searching for answers. The employee sets the camera down gently, as if it's a fragile artifact rather than a piece of machinery. He looks around the empty office, his reflection flickering in a broken window. Outside, the sun sets, casting long shadows over the abandoned buildings. The camera captures the moment, the employee's reflection blending with the fading light, as if he's becoming part of the story himself. The scene is both poignant and bittersweet, a snapshot of a moment frozen in time. The camera pulls back to show a smaller Kodak entity rising from the ashes. The new Kodak is focused on commercial print and advanced materials, a far cry from the empire that once was. The camera lingers on a single worker in a clean room, handling delicate materials with precision. The scene is quiet, almost serene, as if the company is starting anew. The worker's hands move with purpose, the enduring spirit of Kodak, even if the world it knew is gone. The final shot of the chapter is a close-up of the Kodak logo, now simplified and modernized. The camera zooms in on the letters, each one sharp and clear, a symbol of resilience. The logo fades gently, the camera pulling back to reveal the new Kodak logo against a backdrop of the modern world. The scene is bittersweet, a reminder that even giants can fall, but new beginnings are always possible. The camera lingers on the logo, a final nod to the legacy of Kodak. Hi everyone! Quick reminder, subscribe for high-quality daily content. Sparkle's tomorrow's video will reveal this secret. Subscribe so you don't miss it. Shushing face.